Good afternoon. I am Lian Buan, and I am the reporter who's assigned to cover former Senator Bongbong Marcos for his presidential campaign for the 2022 election. So alam na natin kahapon na tatakbo siya pagka-presidente. It came as a little bit lang naman of a surprise that he immediately filed his certificate of candidacy kanina, and expectedly, ang tanong ng lahat ay sino ang VP mo? While he didn't say yet kung sino na ang VP niya, he did reveal an important detail, which was that they were trying to court President Duterte to be their adopted VP candidate. At sabi ni Marcos kanina na nagbago ang lahat ng plano nung Sabado, nung nasurpresa tayo na ang ginawa ng PDP laban ay si Senator Bongo nag-slide down from President to VP, and then si President Duterte na dapat VP candidate ng PDP laban ay sabing magre-retiro na sa politika. So that's what Marcos said kanina. They would have wanted Duterte to be a guest candidate kasi tumatakbo si Marcos ngayon sa ilalim ng Partido Federal ng Pilipinas. And when he was asked about talks with Mayor Sara Duterte, sabi niya, the talks never reached the specifics. So reporters were trying to press him kung ano ba, nag-collapse ba yung mga talks, but Marcos said there was no talk in that nature to collapse kasi yung pag-uusap nila hindi nakaabot sa is it Sara Bongbong or Bongbong Sara, because Mayor Sara has always insisted time and time again that she will not run for national posts, she will just be seeking re-election for mayor of Davao City. So yun yung nakuhang kaninang sagot. And when he was asked if he would consider na lang Senator Bongo as his running mate, sinabi niya in a light tone that would it be a bong, so parang bong to the third power, pero sinabi niya naman na pwede naman and pwede tignan natin. So he said that the surprising events last Saturday of Senator Go's announcement to run for VP changed a lot of things, so they would have to consider kung paano nun babaguhin yung kanilang magiging diskarte sa 2022 election. So right now, as we speak, wala pang VP na running mate si former Senator Bongbong Marcos. And he was also asked about what he would think of a possible rematch with Vice President Leni Robredo. He shrugs it aside. Former Senator Marcos shrugs it aside. He says that he's not in a fight with Vice President Robredo. It's not a two-way fight. In fact, nakasalubong niya pa nga at halos nagsabay silang mag-file ng COC ni Senator Ping Lacson for president. So he doesn't want to be part of that narrative, kumbaga. So parang while Vice President Robredo earlier said that if it's gonna be a one-on-one Marcos-Robredo, laban siya. And there's also this important announcement to be made by the Vice President tomorrow. So that is the narrative of some people, whether they support or oppose Robredo and Marcos. But for former Senator Bongbong Marcos, ayaw niya na ng Marcos versus Robredo narrative. And that narrative has in fact not finally done, because meron pang motion for reconsideration ang mga lawyer ni former Senator Bongbong Marcos. We remember that in February, the Supreme Court has unanimously dismissed the electoral protest of Marcos versus Robredo. But as the system allows, he can and he did file an MR, and that is pending before the Supreme Court en banc. We asked the former Chief Justice dati, kung when he files for COC, does it render his MR moot? Wala na ba yun? There's really no very clear answer about that. But kanina, when asked, former Senator Marcos said that para sa kanya, the MR will be moot only when he takes an oath. So for example, he wins as president and he takes an oath, that day, dun lang magiging moot, dun lang mooted yung kanyang electoral protest. So I guess we'll still have also to follow up with the Supreme Court en banc kung ano na yung magiging desisyon nila sa MR ni former Senator Bongbong Marcos. And there was also a very interesting exchange, banter kanina courtesy of our Comelec reporter, si Dwight. As we know, former Senator Marcos is the son of the late dictator Ferdinand Marcos, and his bid for the presidency sure angers a lot of quarters. Actually, meron ngang grupo na ang tawag ay Campaign Against the Return of the Marcoses and Martial Law. So, it's a very specific purpose for that group. Their convener is former Social Welfare Secretary Judy Taguiwalo, and in their statement yesterday, sabi nila na Bongbong's refusal to apologize or even admit or recognize the abuses of his father will just be made worse by a run for the presidency. And so Dwight, our reporter Dwight, asked him kanina if with this run he would be more open to talking about martial law with the media. And Senator Marcos said he has never refused any interview request from the media, and he has always been open to answer any question. Well, our colleagues from the media, I guess, would tell you that former Senator Marcos is not the most open to media interviews. He carefully selects who he grants one-on-one interviews with. His latest pick was Tony Gonzaga, and that interview was slammed as a whitewash of martial law because the faintest reference to martial law was Tony asking na para sa ibang tao, your father was the worst president, and Marcos referred to the People Power Revolution there as, lumalapit na yung mga kalaban. So there is that dynamics, and we can remember from 2016 hindi umattend ng VP debate si Senator Marcos organized by ABS-CBN, and we know ABS-CBN was closed down during martial law, but he did say in 2016 that it was just a conflict of schedule. So tong si Dwight, and we have a pending request for interview with former Senator Marcos. So si Dwight, he said that, so if we were to ask you for an interview, would you say yes? And doon sinabi ni former Senator Marcos na he cannot, parang kailangan may bago kang tanong because mahirap daw if he has to keep making the conversation that he's been making for 35 years referring to the People Power Revolution that ousted him and forced his family to flee to Hawaii. So Dwight De Leon followed that up with, so if I were to ask you about your mother's conviction for 7 counts of graft, and that's when Senator Marcos cut him and said, oh, I misunderstood, not here and now because I'm here filing. So hindi rin niya sinagot. The rest of the question of Dwight would have been, the Sandigan Bayan identified you, your siblings, Aimee and Irene, as beneficiaries of at least 2 illegally created and maintained Swiss entities. Nag-exist pa ba yung funds na yon to your knowledge? And do you have anything to say about the funds that were derived from those Swiss entities? But hindi rin naman nasagot. So actually, we're looking forward to that quote-unquote commitment that he will be open to any question. He said he will not specify a subject for question. So we will follow him up on that. Naging follow-up din ng reporter ng TV5 na, kasi kahapon sinabi niya na he wants to be a unifying leader. So the reporter from TV5 said, you said that you keep making these conversations for 35 years. So meaning these questions have lingered on for 35 years. And he asked, how can you be a unifying leader if there are still these questions? And Marcos stuck to his messaging, which has been his messaging all throughout, which is that we have to get out of COVID crisis, we have to get out of the economic crisis, and that's where I'll enter, is to unify everyone in order for us to get out of this rut. But everyone would agree that when you run for president, he does have to answer questions about martial law, human rights abuses, corruption, the balloon debt under his father, and everything everything else. And we will keep asking that question because he is applying for the job of the top post of the country, and that job entails a lot of trust and a lot of demand for accountability. So we will ask him that in the next few days. So that was the recap of the eventful morning for every one of us covering the COC filing. I am Lian Buan. I cover Bongbong Marcos for the 2022 election. Stay tuned to all of the channels of Rappler for more election news. Thank you and have a good rest of the day.